I was standing at the airport check-in counter when my brother Brad handed me an envelope. The paper was thin, almost cheap-looking. He smirked as he waved his own ticket, the thick golden folder practically glowing under the fluorescent lights. First class. Mine was economy seat 32B, right next to the bathroom. He said it with that look, that tone. "This is all you can handle." I did not argue. I just took my ID out, placed it on the counter, and watched the agent scan it. Her eyes went wide. The screen turned red. Bright, flashing red. That moment changed everything between us. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. And if you want to see how family drama can turn into the sweetest justice hit, that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you will want to see how this plays out. Growing up in a middle-class neighborhood outside Columbus, Ohio, I always knew I was different from Brad. He was the golden child, the one our parents pinned all their hopes on. 4 years older than me, Brad sailed through high school with perfect grades, got into USC on a partial scholarship, and landed a job at a prestigious investment firm right after graduation. Our parents could not stop talking about him. Every family dinner, every holiday gathering, every phone call, Brad this, Brad that. Brad closed another big deal. Brad got promoted again. Brad bought a new car. I took a different path. After high school, I enrolled at the local community college. Not because I could not get into a university, but because I wanted to figure out what I actually cared about. While Brad was networking at fancy business lunches, I was taking online courses in technology and consulting. While he was climbing the corporate ladder, I was learning skills that would eventually change my life. But nobody in my family understood. To them, I was just drifting, still trying to find myself. Still figuring things out. The comparisons never stopped. Mom would call and say things like, "Why can you not be more like your brother?" Dad would ask when I was going to get a real job. At Thanksgiving, relatives would pat Brad on the back and then turn to me with that sympathetic look, the one that said they felt sorry for me. Brad never helped. He would smile, shrug, and say something like, "Not everyone can handle the pressure of finance. Some people need more time." I stopped trying to explain myself. I stopped defending my choices. I just focused on my work. After 2 years at community college, I started freelancing as a technology consultant. The first year was brutal. I barely made enough to cover rent. But I loved it. I loved solving problems, helping companies streamline their operations, building systems that actually worked. I was good at it. Really good. By year 3, I had built a solid reputation. Companies started reaching out to me directly. Small firms, at first, then bigger ones. By year 5, I was consulting for Fortune 500 companies, flying across the country almost every week. My income had tripled, then quadrupled. I was making more than Brad, but I never told anyone. Not my parents, not my relatives, and definitely not Brad. I did not need the validation. I did not need to prove anything. I was happy with my work, and that was enough. But Brad did not know any of this. To him, I was still his little brother who never quite made it. And he loved reminding me of that fact. The wedding invitation came in March. Our cousin Stephanie was getting married in Maui, and the whole family was invited. I booked my flight early, planning to take a few extra days to relax on the island. But then Brad called. His voice was cheerful, almost too cheerful. "Hey, little brother, I heard you are going to Stephanie's wedding." I said yes, I already had my ticket. He laughed. "Cancel it. I will handle everything. Consider it my treat." I was surprised. Brad never offered to pay for anything. But I thought maybe this was his way of reaching out. Maybe he was trying to be a better brother. So I said, "Thank you," canceled my booking, and waited for him to send me the details. He texted me a week later. "Just booked everything. See you at the airport. Friday morning, 6:30 a.m. Do not be late." I responded with a thumbs-up emoji and thought nothing more of it. Friday morning came. I arrived at the airport at 6:15, dragging my carry-on behind me. The terminal was buzzing with travelers, families heading off on vacation business, people rushing to make their flights. I spotted Brad near the check-in counter. He was impossible to miss. Tailored charcoal suit, probably worth more than most people's monthly rent. A gold Rolex on his wrist, gleaming under the lights. His hair was slicked back perfectly, and he had that look on his face. The look that said he owned the place. He saw me and waved. "Kyle, over here." I walked over, and he immediately reached into his leather briefcase, pulling out 2 envelopes. One was thick, made of expensive golden cardstock, with the airline's logo embossed on the front. The other was a standard white envelope, thin and flimsy. He held up the golden one first. "This," he said, waving it slowly, "is first class. Champagne on demand, lie flat seats, priority boarding the works." Then he tossed the white envelope at me. It hit my chest, and I caught it reflexively. "And this is yours. Economy, seat 32B." I opened the envelope and looked at the ticket. Sure enough, economy class. Row 32, middle seat, right next to the bathroom. I could already imagine the smell, the constant line of people waiting the cramped space. I looked up at Brad. He was smiling. Not a friendly smile, a smug, satisfied smile. "Thanks for booking it," I said, keeping my voice even. He shrugged. "Do not mention it. I mean, I would have upgraded you, but those first-class tickets are expensive. And with your situation, I did not think you would appreciate the difference anyway." He said situation like it was a disease, like I was some kind of charity case. I felt the anger rising in my chest, but I swallowed it down. I was not going to give him the satisfaction. I just nodded and said, "I appreciate it." He clapped me on the shoulder. "That's the spirit. Hey, at least you are getting to the wedding right. That is what matters." We joined the check-in line together. There were about 15 people ahead of us, mostly families and couples. Brad kept talking, loud enough that everyone around us could hear. "You know, Kyle, economy is not that bad. I flew it once back in college. Survived just fine. You will be okay. Just keep your head down. Maybe bring some noise-canceling headphones. The engines are pretty loud back there." I did not respond. I just stared ahead, trying to ignore him. He continued, "And the food. Well, do not expect much. Maybe some pretzels if you are lucky. But hey, you can always buy a sandwich at the airport before we board." He laughed, and a couple of people in line glanced over. I saw a woman give me a sympathetic look. I wanted to disappear. When we finally reached the counter, Brad stepped forward first. The agent, a young woman with blonde hair pulled back in a tight bun, smiled politely. "Good morning, sir." Checking in for flight 723 to Maui. Brad nodded and handed over his golden envelope with a flourish. "First class, please." She scanned his ID and printed his boarding pass. "You are all set, Mr. Patterson. Seat 3C. Boarding begins at 7:45. Brad took his pass and stepped aside, but he did not leave. He stood right there watching, waiting to see my check-in process. I stepped up to the counter and handed over my white envelope and my ID. The agent smiled at me, the same polite smile she had given Brad. "Good morning. Let me just scan this for you." She took my ID, swiped it through the scanner, and looked at her screen. And then everything changed. The screen turned red, bright, flashing red. An alert sound beeped loudly 3 times. Beep, beep, beep. The agent's eyes went wide. She stared at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. She blinked, clearly confused. Just one moment, please," she said, her voice suddenly uncertain. Brad, still standing next to me, leaned over. "What is wrong? Is there a problem?" The agent did not answer him. She picked up her phone and spoke quietly into it. "I need a supervisor at counter 12. We have a situation." Brad looked at me, his smirk fading slightly. "What did you do, Kyle?" "I did not do anything," I said, calmly. Brad crossed his arms, clearly enjoying this. "Great. Now we are going to miss our flight, because you messed something up." A man in a dark blue suit appeared within seconds. He was older, maybe in his 50s, with graying hair and a name tag that read Operations Supervisor. He walked up to the counter, glanced at the screen, and his entire demeanor changed. His back straightened. His expression shifted from concern to respect. He looked at me. "Mr. Kyle Patterson." I nodded. He extended his hand. "Sir, I apologize for the confusion. I see you are booked in economy, but as a Diamond Elite member with over 2 million miles, you are entitled to complimentary first-class upgrades on all domestic flights." Brad's face went pale. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. The supervisor continued scrolling through the screen. "In fact, sir, I see you have flown with us 83 times this year alone. You are one of our top members. We truly appreciate your loyalty." "Thank you," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I appreciate that." The supervisor smiled warmly. "Would you like to upgrade to first class? We have several seats available." I glanced at Brad. His face had gone from pale to red. He looked like he had just been slapped. "Yes, please," I said. "That would be great." The supervisor nodded and began typing rapidly. The agent printed out a new boarding pass and handed it to me with both hands, almost like she was presenting an award. "Here you are, sir. Seat 2A, first class. And as a Diamond Elite member, you have access to our premium lounge with a guest. Would you like to bring someone?" I looked at Brad again. His jaw was clenched. His hands were balled into fists at his sides. I smiled just a little. "Actually, I think I will go alone this time." "Thanks, though." The supervisor nodded. "Of course, sir. Enjoy your flight." I took my boarding pass and turned to Brad. His face was a mixture of shock, embarrassment, and anger. "Kyle," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You never told me." I shrugged. "You never asked." The people around us had been watching the whole thing. A few were smiling. One guy gave me a subtle thumbs up. Brad's colleague from work, some guy named Derek, who I recognized from Brad's social media posts, was standing a few feet away. He had witnessed everything. He walked over, his eyes wide. "Diamond Elite. That is incredible. You must fly constantly for work." I nodded. "It comes with the job." Derek looked at Brad, then back at me. "What do you do, Kyle?" Before I could answer, Brad stepped in, his voice tight. "He does freelance work. Consulting." Derek raised an eyebrow. Must be some serious consulting to rack up 2 million miles. Brad did not respond. He just stood there, holding his boarding pass like it was suddenly worthless. I looked at Brad one more time. "You wanted to humiliate me. You booked economy on purpose, knowing I would see you in first class. You wanted everyone to see that you are better than me." Brad's mouth opened, but nothing came out. I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice so only he could hear. "The difference between you and me, Brad, is that I do not need to prove anything to anyone. I do my work, I do it well, and I do not need a first-class ticket to feel good about myself." I turned and walked toward the security line, leaving Brad standing there, his golden envelope suddenly feeling a lot less impressive. Boarding started at 7:45. As a Diamond Elite member, I was called in the first group, even before first-class general boarding. I walked down the jet bridge, handed my pass to the flight attendant, and stepped onto the plane. The first-class cabin was spacious, with wide leather seats and warm lighting. I found seat 2A right by the window, second row. Perfect. A flight attendant, a woman in her 30s with kind eyes, approached me immediately. "Mr. Patterson, welcome aboard. Can I get you something to drink before we take off? Champagne, orange juice, water? I will take a water, thanks." She returned within seconds with a glass bottle of sparkling water and a glass filled with ice. "If you need anything at all during the flight, just let me know." I settled into my seat, stretching my legs out. The seat was huge compared to economy. Leather adjustable, with a personal screen and noise-canceling headphones waiting for me. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the tension from the check-in counter melt away. Then I heard footsteps. Heavy, deliberate footsteps. I opened my eyes and saw Brad walking down the aisle. His face was still red, and he was avoiding eye contact with everyone. He glanced at the seat numbers, and I saw the exact moment he realized where he was sitting. Seat 3, C, right behind me. He stopped at my row, looked down at me, and for a second I thought he might say something. But he did not. He just shoved his carry-on into the overhead bin and dropped into his seat without a word. The flight attendant came by again. "Sir, can I get you something to drink?" Brad muttered whiskey. "Neat." She nodded and walked away. I could feel him sitting there stewing in his embarrassment. The flight took off smoothly. Once we reached cruising altitude, the flight attendant brought around warm towels, then a menu with actual meal options. I ordered the grilled salmon. Brad ordered the steak, but his voice was clipped angry. Throughout the 5-hour flight, I could hear him shifting in his seat, sighing loudly, clearly uncomfortable. Not because of the seat. The seat was fine, but because he could not handle what had happened. I spent the flight working on my laptop, reviewing a presentation for a client meeting the following week. Occasionally, the flight attendant would stop by. "Mr. Patterson, would you like more water?" "Another snack. How is everything?" I was polite, grateful, and calm. Meanwhile, Brad sat behind me in silence. When we landed in Maui, I gathered my things and stood up. Brad was still sitting staring straight ahead. I walked past him without saying a word. As I exited the plane, the flight attendant smiled at me. "Thank you for flying with us, Mr. Patterson. We hope to see you again soon." I nodded. "You will." The wedding was beautiful, held at a resort on the beach, with palm trees swaying in the breeze and the ocean sparkling in the background. Our family was scattered around, catching up, taking photos, enjoying the festivities. I kept a low profile, mostly staying near the edges, talking to cousins I had not seen in years. But word spread fast. Derek, Brad's colleague, had apparently told a few people about what happened at the airport. By the time the reception started, half the family knew. Relatives I had not spoken to in years were coming up to me, asking about my work, asking how I had earned Diamond Elite status. My mom pulled me aside during cocktail hour. Her eyes were concerned, a little confused. "Kyle Honey, someone told me you fly all the time for work. Is that true?" I nodded. "Yeah, Mom. I travel a lot. Consulting work." She frowned. "But you never told us. You never said you were doing so well." I shrugged. I did not think it mattered. I was just doing my job. She looked at me for a long moment, then hugged me tightly. "I am sorry we did not ask more. I am sorry we kept comparing you to Brad." I hugged her back. "It is okay, Mom. I am happy. That is what matters." My dad found me later near the bar. He had a beer in his hand and a sheepish look on his face. "Your mother told me what happened at the airport. I guess we have been pretty tough on you, huh?" I smiled. "It is fine, Dad." He shook his head. "No, it is not. We should have listened. We should have asked. You did things your own way, and it worked. I am proud of you, son." Hearing those words, after years of feeling like I did not measure up, hit me harder than I expected. "Thanks, Dad. That means a lot." Meanwhile, Brad was avoiding everyone. He sat at a table near the back, nursing a drink, barely talking to anyone. I saw him glance at me a few times, but he never approached. At one point, his colleague Derek sat down next to him, and I could see them talking. Derek gestured toward me, and Brad just shook his head, looking down at his drink. The reception went late into the night. There was dancing, speeches, laughter. It was a good time. But I kept thinking about Brad, sitting alone, realizing that his need to feel superior had backfired in the worst way possible. As the night wound down, I was standing near the edge of the dance floor when Brad finally approached me. His tie was loose, his suit jacket gone. He looked tired. "Can we talk?" I nodded and followed him outside to a quiet spot overlooking the ocean. The sound of waves crashing against the shore filled the silence between us. Brad did not look at me. He just stared out at the water. "I am sorry," he said quietly. I was an idiot. I did not respond. I let him continue. "I thought I was better than you. I thought success meant showing off. The car, the watch, the first-class ticket. I thought that is what mattered. But seeing you at that airport, seeing how they treated you, it made me realize something." "What is that?" I asked. He finally looked at me. "You do not need to prove anything to anyone. You just do your work, and people respect you for it. I have been chasing validation my whole life, and you were just living yours." I nodded slowly. "That is the difference between us, Brad. You work for validation. I work because I love what I do." He laughed bitterly, and I humiliated myself trying to humiliate you. "Pretty poetic, huh?" I smiled a little. "Pretty much." He was quiet for a moment. "How long have you been doing this, making good money flying all the time?" "About 3 years," I said, but I did not tell anyone, because I did not want to be like you. I did not want to make everything a competition. He flinched at that, but he did not argue. "You are right. I made everything a competition. And I made you feel small because it made me feel big. I am sorry, Kyle. I really am." I looked at him, this man, who had spent years making me feel less than. And in that moment, I realized something. I was not angry anymore. I was just tired. "Can we start over?" he asked. "Maybe," I said. "But you need to learn that success is not about first-class tickets or fancy watches. It is about being happy with who you are. And if you can figure that out, then yeah, we can start over." He nodded, and for the first time in years, I saw something genuine in his eyes. Gratitude. The months after the wedding were strange. Brad and I did not suddenly become best friends, but something shifted. He stopped bragging about his job. He stopped making passive-aggressive comments. He started asking me about my work, genuinely curious. Our parents noticed the change too. Family dinners became less tense. The comparisons stopped. I continued traveling for work, racking up more miles, taking on bigger clients. But I also made time for myself. I took vacations, spent time with friends, focused on things that made me happy. The Diamond Elite status was nice. The upgrades were convenient. But they were not what defined me. Looking back, I realized that moment at the airport, when the screen turned red and everything changed, was not just about proving Brad wrong. It was about proving something to myself. That I did not need anyone's approval. That my path, even though it was different, was valid. That success is not measured by how much you show off, but by how much you grow. Brad learned his lesson the hard way. And honestly, I think it was good for him. He is humbler now, more thoughtful. He still works in finance, still wears nice suits. But he does not use it as a weapon anymore. And that is progress. As for me, I am still doing what I love. Consulting, traveling, solving problems. I still fly with the same airline, still get the first-class upgrades, still appreciate the quiet respect that comes with being a Diamond Elite member. But I do not do it for the status. I do it because I found something I am good at, something that makes me happy. That red screen did not just change my brother's perspective. It reminded me why I chose my path in the first place. Not for the status, not for the miles, but because I found something I loved doing. And sometimes that is worth more than any first-class ticket. So let me ask you, have you ever been underestimated by someone close to you? Have you ever had a moment where you proved them wrong without even trying? Drop your story in the comments. I would love to hear it. And if you enjoyed this story, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs a reminder that quiet success is still success. Thank you for watching, and remember, the best revenge is living well. Safe travels, everyone.